Hello, I'm Callum Dilietto, and this is Flock Together, the podcast for events and travel professionals. And season 1 is brought to you in partnership with Visit Berlin, Berlin Convention Office. And we are here today at Chewton Glen, and I'm joined by Emma Chamberlain. Hello.
Hello, Callum. Thanks for having me.
You're so happy all the time. You have an infectious energy all the time.
Yes.
Never change. Please never change.
No, I won't.
Good. You are great.
Spread the love and spread the energy.
How are things with you and how are things with First?
Yes, absolutely great. It's been an incredible 6 months at First, constantly learning, constantly spreading the energy. It's definitely been a journey and excited to carry on and see what I can achieve.
Well, the first section of the podcast is reform, and that is basically an opportunity for you to write a letter to the industry, get that feather from the Flock Together logo and turn it into a quill and tell the industry what you want to tell them.
For me, I'm a really passionate person, and you can tell that. And I think I would really love to see the industry. How do we support the rookie? How do we support the young talent that's trying to get into the events industry? Or, there should be no age restriction, but how do we support those people? And I think we don't have any platform, or we don't have many platforms that allow them to come in and actually look at whether they can do the job or not. And I think it would be really nice to see agencies in particular give people a chance. It's not just about your CV, it's not just about your qualifications. Are you a people's person? Are you passionate? Are you ready to serve? All these things that make people feel good are other people, right? And I think that's really important. And when I look back at my own career, people gave me a chance. I didn't have a degree. I didn't work in hospitality. I had a chance to go and work in a leisure agency, and they saw that I was good with people, and that's how my journey began in this industry.
That is so key. That is the thing. I've written articles on this where I've basically said, if you're recruiting for a bricklayer, get them to lay bricks. If you're recruiting for a journalist, get them to write an article. And I think it's exactly the same with events. It's very easy to sell yourself on paper, in a CV, or just be very persuasive. But actually, when it comes down to what the job entails, not many people actually test for those things,
And maybe we should do something like a hackathon, Callum, where, you have the hackathon and the tech companies choose the best in the room. Why couldn't we do the same for the events world, have an events-a-thon where we set up situations, we actually see them in action. Are they good with people? Are they not? Customer service naturally there, right? Because we're trying to find those people that really have a vocation, that they're ready to work in our industry, right? But they probably maybe don't know it themselves, or they can't see their strengths themselves. So maybe that's food for thought.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that's it. It's like X Factor meets a recruitment drive of sorts.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah, we've solved it.
So the next part is about remembering. So I'd like you to remember your first ever work trip abroad.
So I had to dig deep for this one because there's been quite a few. And it really made me smile. I was 19. I was going off to Hamburg for an event, and I had to get the ferry there. It was Harwich to Hamburg, and it doesn't exist anymore. They don't do that route.
Yeah.
And it was a choppy ride. Don't know why. Can't remember why I got the ferry, but it was a choppy ride. And I remember sitting at the bar, and the stall was literally like in a movie, moving back and forth and back and forth. Anyway, I arrived in Hamburg, and as a naive 19-year-old, never been to Germany before, it was a beautiful city, and it really surprised me. And it was just great fun. And I remember buying a pair of shoes there as well and thinking, this is amazing. And I still remember the detail of the shoes now. But yeah, it was a great experience, and it really made me open my eyes to not having a perception about a destination.
I had the same perception. I remember the first time I went to Hamburg, I thought, my expectations were it was going to be much more industrial and not as green as it was. Yeah. And I was really surprised by how beautiful it was, as you say. And the old architecture as well, and so I think sometimes certain destinations you either don't really have a perception at all, so you kind of make one up and fill in the gaps, or you've got the wrong perception because of one movie you watched or something like that. It's literally as simple as that. But what was your most recent work trip?
So recent work trip was coming back going to IMEX Vegas. And for me, this is really, I really felt like it was back to kind of pre-COVID trade show. It was great energy, great connections, so much more content from an educational perspective. And I come back for the first time, even though knackered, come back for the first time going, I loved this Vegas. This was a good IMEX, and that's just brilliant. You know, we do it so often. I think, again, we get used to it, right? And I think for me, I was like, yes, I'm actually going to go next year.
This was the first year I missed, so now I'm getting like massive FOMO. Yeah, massive FOMO. And actually, I did feel that as well. Everyone was in Vegas, and I was seeing it on Instagram, but I couldn't make it, and I just remember thinking like, damn, this was the year not to miss.
Yeah. So we'll have to recreate it next year all over again. You have to be there.
Well, that actually ties in with the next section of the podcast, which is about revisiting. So if you could go back in time and transport yourself into past Emma to relive a destination experience, what would that be?
God, there's so many. But I think for me, maybe it's Istanbul in Turkey.
Okay.
I think, again, linking it back to kind of your perception of a place, I had a very different perception, and then when I arrived, I fell in love with the clash of everything, a clash of the senses, a clash of the people, a clash of the town, and I was like overwhelmed with it. And I think, you know, being well travelled, there's not many times and you become quite overwhelmed with a destination experience like that. And so I loved that feeling. And if I could recreate that feeling all over again, yeah, it's brilliant. And it's one of the great reasons to travel, right?
Do you know what? I said this at the beginning. Your positivity is infectious, and even your enthusiasm for a destination. Like, I feel like I'm like, let's go right now.
I love it, and you know, I love every destination. Right? We haven't got favourites, but it was that feeling that I associated with that trip that I'd love to revisit.
Yeah. And the second part of this is, if you could make any hotel that you've stayed in a home, what would it be?
The Lone Star in Barbados in St James. It is a 6-bedroom boutique hotel with a beach house. It is beautiful, and it is exactly that. It's a home, and it's got the most idyllic positioning, and I would just be in total luxury living there, and I'd move next door to the restaurant and eat every night with a bunch of characters that the Barbados country has, and I just love it.
Yeah. Do you know what? My first trip to the Caribbean was last year, and I mean, obviously the weather is incredible, the sceneries are stunning, but the Caribbean culture, like, is just...
And everyone is so kind and so gentle and,
fun. And
you know what, the first time I walked down the beach, I was like with my daughter, and I walked down the beach, and like people were just going, hey, good morning. And like, as a Londoner, like you kind of like, you don't really do that, do you? We ignore people on the tubes and the trains every morning that we may see a couple of times. They're like, yeah, same route, same day, same time. But like, they're just, hey, and at first you're like, oh, okay. And then eventually by the end of your vacation, you're like, oh my God, this place is wonderful.
The penultimate part of the podcast is reimagine. It's you know, you and everyone in the industry is constantly putting on events and incentives for their clients and their customers. But if you were to create an incentive trip for yourself, where would it be? What would you do? And what celebrity guest would accompany?
So I'm extreme here. So I'm going to go with the more heartfelt one, and I would love a spiritual incentive to the Himalayas. Ooh. And I'd like to go off grid, and I'd like to learn about all the cultural differences around there, and just go on that spiritual journey. And I think it would be incredible. And the guest I'd have with me, or celebrity guest, really is a spiritual celebrity guest, and that's Deepak Chopra. And he's, if you don't know him, he is a American Indian spiritual person. He's an author, he's a physician, he's incredible. So, and he's very motivational. So I take him along on that journey with me.
I think that would be a truly life-changing.
Yeah,
like that. You would come back from that a different person. You'd be reborn.
And maybe a tut-tut or two as well along the way.
Well, the final part is react. And this is a quick fire round where I'm going to ask you very simple questions and you just have to say which one it is for you. Okay. So, packing, last minute or the week before?
Last minute.
Same. Carry on or check in?
Carry on.
Airport lounge or shopping?
Lounge.
Aisle or window seat?
Window.
City or nature?
City.
Well, your dream event was like the Himalayas. I thought you were going to go nature. I could have bet you were going to go nature. That really threw me.
See, I'm a
yeah, you just keep me on my toes. Keeping me on my toes. Lay in or early start?
Lay in.
Same, definitely. Poolside or seaside?
Poolside.
Planned or spontaneous?
Spontaneous.
I didn't even have to ask that question. I did not have to ask that. I was like,
there's a theme going
if
here.
you didn't say spontaneous, I would have been thrown. And finally, hotels, boutique or brands?
Boutique, based on the Lone Star in Barbados.
Yeah. But you thought about that one, you were sort of...
Yeah, because, you know, my job is partnership. So I see the positive, I see the benefits of all. And I think, yeah, it's a hard one, right? Again, it's back to connection. It's back to memories. It's back to feeling. You know, places you go are just driven by that special time you've had there, right? And I think, you know, whether it's boutique or brand, it doesn't really matter. And I think, you know, that's what drives our reason to travel. And yeah, for me, it's not about supporting one brand or the other in my personal travel. And so that's why I hesitated there. Yeah, a bit of everything. But again, extremes, one to the other.
Always, constantly.
Yeah, and the other incentive would have been like, you know, Ibiza with Keith Lemon. So, you know, you can see I'll do the both.
Oh, that is actually such a great answer as well.
Bit of Six Senses maybe in Ibiza with Keith Lemon, you know.
Okay, that would be cool.
Bit bougie, but bit mental.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be chaos energy, but I would love to see that. Well, on that bombshell, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.